freak out. That's the title of this video. We're talking about veteran NFL dynasty players that you shouldn't freak out about because of what happened in the draft. As always, like and subscribe. We put out dynasty content all year long. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And we're going to start off with the inspiration of this video, Mr. Kyren Williams. Now, I've seen some things floating around because the Rams took Blake Corum in the third round, and people are kind of freaking out a little bit about Kyren Williams, and I understand why. It's a little scary. Also, because Blake Corum's a little bit of a bigger name as well. He was, maybe considered. Some people considered him a top 3 running back in this draft class. Michigan national champion, scored like 45 touchdowns over the last 2 years. But I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't freak out about Kyren Williams. He has fallen a couple spots, not too drastically. He's down to RB9 according to Keep Trade Cut. I think he's fallen about 2 spots over the last 30 days or so, which I understand again. But I'm here to tell you, I don't think you should freak out about Blake Corum affecting Kyren Williams and his fantasy production in 2024. Let me show you guys something here. I went back and looked since 2010. Every running back drafted in the first, second, or third round. So day 1 or day 2 draft capital in the NFL draft. And I looked at the guys who were drafted in the first, second, or third round who are going to a team with an established starter. And here's the list for you guys. You see the list here. We have 18 guys here since 2010 who have been drafted either in rounds 1, 2, or 3 who are going to a team with an established starter. You see the name here of the rookie drafted. You see the established starter's name here. And you see the touches that the rookie got their first year. And what you can see here is that there's only seven running backs, rookie running backs, who went to a team with an established starter that were drafted in rounds 1, 2, or 3. Only 7 had more than 100 touches. And only 2 of them had more than 150 touches. And basically only one rookie, in my opinion, really made a significant impact in the established starter, and that was Javonte Williams in 2021. He had almost 250 touches. Melvin Gordon was there in the year before Javonte came in 2020. And if you want to even argue, was Melvin Gordon this great established starter? I think at that point, he was in year 7 or 8 in the league already, 6 or 7 in the league. Maybe he's a little bit older. It's not like he was this amazing starter. I think he had about 1,000 yards rushing in 2020. And he was still productive, Melvin Gordon was in 2021. If you remember, Javonte and Melvin Gordon were both like kind of 50-50 running back. So what I'm trying to tell you here is I'm not going to be too worried. We've seen this story before. Last year, we had 4 examples of running backs who were drafted to teams with an established starter. Running backs that were drafted in day 1 or day 2. Zach Charbonnet, Kenneth Walker was there. Charbonnet didn't really affect Walker too much. A little bit in the passing game, but not too much. Kendre Miller did nothing. I know he got hurt at the beginning of the year. There's other circumstances, but he did nothing to Alvin Kamara. Tajay Spears, he did catch, I believe, like 50 passes or so, but Derrick Henry was still Derrick Henry. Tank Bigsby to Travis Etienne. I fell for this one. I thought Etienne's numbers were going to go down a bit, and they didn't. Tank Bigsby had 51 touches on the year. We've even seen this, as you see here in 2019. We've even seen this with Sean McVay and the Rams. Todd Gurley was the established starter. Darrell Henderson was drafted in 2019 in the 3rd round. Darrell Henderson had 43 touches his rookie year. So I'm not too worried about Blake Corum going to the Rams in the 3rd round, and I'm not too worried about Kyren Williams. I'm really not. Now, I'd be a little bit more worried in situations where the coaching staffs change. If coaching staffs change, I'm a little bit more worried, which is why I was a little bit worried about Travis Etienne, because they had a whole new coaching staff in there. They didn't draft Etienne. That's not the case for the Rams and Kyren Williams. One other note to point out here is that the Rams, when Kyren Williams, he missed 4 weeks last year, the Rams went 1-3 during those 4 weeks. And I believe in 2 of those 3 losses, they couldn't really run the ball that effectively. Now, one of the games, I think they also were missing Stafford. There was other circumstances which led to the loss. But I truly believe the Rams won a good running game. That's how they made it to the Super Bowl with Gurley, right? That's how they're going to help age Stafford a little bit. And I think they want a consistent running game, and this is their backup plan to if Kyren gets hurt. That's my opinion. I think Kyron's going to be very good still. I think he can still easily be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 running back next year. Could Blake Corum take a little bit of work from him? Of course. Could he take some goal line stuff away? Of course. But another thing to note here is Kyron was like playing like CMC last year, like several games of 80 or 90% of the snaps. I don't think we want that for Kyron Williams. I think it's actually a positive that Corum could drop Kyron's stats a little bit. I'd much rather have Kyron playing 70% or 75% of the snaps and be playing every game rather than 90% of the snaps but missing 4 games. 4 games is significant for fantasy football. So Kyron Williams, don't freak out about him. I think he's going to be fine. If you can somehow buy low on him, I would. I think he's going to be really good for 2024. Another player is Rashee Rice, down to wide receiver 34. Now, of course, this drop for his Rashee Rice is a little bit related to their suspension stuff and the legal issues he's going through. He could be heavily suspended. Half a season is not what I'm seeing, but this is Dynasty. It sucks. We want him there the whole year, but even if he does miss 6 games or so, it's Dynasty, right? We're looking a little bit more long-term as well. And Rashee Rice, obviously, is going to drop because of Xavier Worthy coming in, Marquise Brown coming in. And I love Xavier Worthy. I've always been a little bit lower on Rice, and I've been very high on Xavier Worthy. And I'm telling you, don't freak out here. I think Rashee Rice is going to be fine. He showed his ability to get in the end zone, which is, maybe something Xavier Worthy is going to lack or not be good at. We've seen Rice be pretty good in the red zone, catching touchdowns. Travis Kelce is getting a little bit older. Marquise Brown's on a 1-year contract. And I think Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice just play very complementary type of game. Their games they complement each other very well. Rashee Rice is more of that yak guy. Maybe Xavier Worthy to start his career, maybe a little bit more of a down the field type of player. So I think they complement each other very well. And we're talking about Patrick Mahomes here. We're talking about a quarterback. I know he's never really produced like 3 good options in fantasy football, but we're talking about a guy that could potentially throw or has thrown for 5,000 yards before. And he could do that again. He's thrown for 5,000 yards twice, actually. The guy's going to throw for 4,500 plus yards at least. I know he threw for like 42 last year, but I think he's going to consistently throw for 4,500 or more. There's enough to go around, and he could potentially throw 40 or 50 touchdowns as well, which he's done twice in his career. So 40 plus. Don't worry about Rashee Rice. Don't freak out. Down to wide receiver 34 is a little bit crazy in my opinion. And I'm not even the biggest Rashee Rice fan, but I think it's a little ridiculous that he's fallen that far. Again, I know the legal issues do play into this. Next up on the list, we have Devon Achane. I always say it wrong. Achane here. And Achane is RB7, so there's not a huge freak out moment on him at all. People aren't dropping him lower. I know they drafted Jalen Wright, and they actually traded up to draft Jalen Wright. They essentially drafted a third-round pick drafted him as like a third-round pick in that sense because they traded a third-round pick to get him. I know he was a fourth-round pick, but I am trying to say don't worry too much about Achane. I think he's still going to be – it's going to be Mostert Achane to start the year at least. Now, should you be worried about Achane's ability to stay healthy? Yes. Should you be worried about Achane because of Jalen Wright? I don't think so. I think Jalen Wright's more of a Raheem Mostert replacement. There's no way you can keep Achane off the field. He's just way too explosive. And I don't really see them doing that. Also, I think part of the reason why they traded up for Jalen Wright is so that he can help him year one in the kickoff return game. Because I think Jalen Wright can be a really good kickoff returner. And I think that's going to play a big role in the NFL next season. And you need someone who's fast and good, essentially a running back, maybe a wide receiver to return kicks. So I think that's what Jalen Wright's role is. Now, I like Jalen Wright, and I think he's Raheem Mostert's future replacement. But if everyone's healthy all year, I don't really see Jalen Wright taking too much away from Achane. Achane's still going to get his. Can he stay healthy? We'll see. But Achane's way too explosive to keep off the field. Don't freak out about Achane's production in 2024. Continue on this list here. I got our first and only quarterback in Derek Carr at QB 31. I know people are going to see, Spencer Rattler, and there's a lot of, Spencer Rattler has all the arm talent in the world, and he was considered, the top pick when, at some point he had an amazing first year at college, and everyone's speculating when he comes out, he's going to be the number one overall pick. And he was on a Netflix show, and he has a lot of hype around him, which people might freak out a little bit about Derek Carr. And I don't think Derek Carr is going anywhere. Now, again, is Derek Carr a league winner? No. At best, you want him as your QB3 in a super flex, just a spot start, maybe even as a QB4 at this point. But Derek Carr's cap hit is absolutely insane for the next 2 years. If he's not hurt, he's going to be playing quarterback for the Saints, in my opinion. He is. I don't think they're going to try and rush Spencer Rattler. I think Spencer Rattler needs to sit for at least a year, maybe 2, just to learn the NFL and all that is to be a professional quarterback. Derek Carr's cap hit in dead cap number in 2025 is over $50 million. So they can get out of his contract after the 2025 season, which is if they're going to transition to Spencer Rattler, maybe that's the time. I don't see it happening until 2026 offseason. We're talking about 2 years from now, essentially. So don't freak out too much about Derek Carr if you saw that they drafted a quarterback and there's a little bit of a hype around Spencer Rattler, and deservedly so. I think he could develop into something. Keenan Allen, I think, is another one to not freak out too much about. I know they drafted Rome Odunze. I know, DJ Moore's there. Now, is Keenan Allen going to be the dominant guy that he was with the Chargers the last couple of years? I don't think so. I still think he's going to be very, very good. A wide receiver 2 in fantasy. Now, this is Dynasty, so you got to take it year by year with Keenan Allen, right? Like any moment now, the cliff could happen, and that's always a concern. But I'm not too concerned about Rome Odunze. I think Keenan Allen's really, really nice for rookie quarterbacks because his route running is spectacular, and it's the best on that team. Now, maybe Rome Odunze becomes a better route runner. That's possible. Right now in 2024, Keenan Allen is a crazy good route runner, and that's going to be a quarterback's best friend, a guy that can just consistently get open and you can rely on. Does it do his numbers reduce a bit? I think so. Is he still a solid wide receiver 2? I think so. I'm not freaking out too much about Keenan Allen. 2 more guys for you here, 2 more wide receivers. Christian Kirk makes this list because they drafted Brian Thomas Jr. in the first round, and I think maybe people are gonna freak out a little bit about Christian Kirk. He has fallen just a few spots. He's wide receiver 40 according to Keep Trade Cut, which is a little low in my opinion. He's still relatively young. He's gonna play this season. He's going to play this whole season as a 27-year-old, so he still has several years left, in my opinion. And again, it's kind of a Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice situation where they complement each other very, very well. I don't think Brian Thomas's targets are going to take anything away from Christian Kirk's targets, and he's just going to still be, and he has been, kind of Trevor Lawrence's like safety blanket, and I think he's going to continue to be that. I think Christian Kirk is a sneaky top 24 receiver this year that not a lot of people are valuing him as that. So I'm not too worried about Christian Kirk. He could be value in Dynasty and in redraft. So keep that in mind. And then last up on the list, to keep this video shorter, we have Michael Wilson. And, Michael Wilson was getting some hype last year. 3rd round rookie out of Stanford, has all the tools you kind of need to be a solid wide receiver. He's dropped off quite a bit since, not quite a bit, but he's dropped off about 10 spots or so since the draft. Michael Wilson could be nothing for fantasy football, but the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. is there, I actually think is fine for Michael Wilson. He was never meant to be a team's number 1 wide receiver. Never. I don't think he was meant to be that. And this offense, in my opinion, could be really, really good and could easily produce 2 fantasy relevant receivers and a tight end. This could be a really, really good offense, especially in 2025 and beyond, which is why I'm high on guys like Trey Benson, the running back for this team potentially. But this team now has Kyler Murray, hopefully healthy all year. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., obviously one of the best wide receiver prospects we've ever seen. You have Trey McBride, who was just an absolute monster at the tight end position last year. You have Michael Wilson. If this team is moving the ball a lot now because they have Marvin Harrison Jr., that's going to give Michael Wilson a lot more touchdown opportunities, which he could sneakily just put up like a 65 catch, 800 yard, 8 touchdown year. And that's not nothing. That's, we're not writing home about that and like, oh, he's a league winner, but he could just be a solid producer for fantasy. And a lot of people, I think, are kind of out on him a little bit. They don't see him as even a potential starter, but they don't even see him maybe as valuable bench depth. And I see him as, a spot starter during bye weeks and things like that. So Michael Wilson is a player that I don't think you should freak out about because Marvin Harrison was drafted. So there you have it, guys. How many do we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 players that I think you shouldn't freak out about just because of what happened in the draft. Let me know in the comments what you think. Give us a like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys all in the next